all of the parents are. Go ahead, nice. Don't let me get in your way.
Oh, that's fine.
All good reasons?
Yeah.
What's up?
Mr. Moderator. No, that's needed. I guess. No, I got some. Need a refill, let me know. Don't spill it.
Hey, seeing it's 7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting to order for the March 23rd Board of Selectmen meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I want to also notify the audience here and the folks at home that this meeting is being broadcast by Chelmsford Telemedia and is being taped for a later rebroadcast. If anybody else is audio or video taping this recording, please let us know at this time. Okay. And before I turn the joint meeting over to our town moderator, I would like to take a moment to recognize someone that we lost a week and a half or so ago, Carol Clevin. I think everybody knew her and knew of her. She was a wonderful woman. She served the town of Chelmsford very admirably, and as a member of the school committee and as a state representative. I think it can be honestly said that she embodied all that is good about the town of Chelmsford, and she will be sorely missed. If you could join me in a moment of silence for her, please. Thank you. May she rest in peace. So, John Curlin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Could we have the school committee, please? In my capacity as the town moderator, I convene a joint meeting of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen and School Committee for the purpose of electing a member of the Neshoba Valley Technical High School School Committee from the town of Chelmsford. This is a position that terminates in 3 years, March 31st, 2018. My understanding is that there's one person who's filed an application, who's Maria Carafellis, who also happens to be the incumbent member of the school committee. So at this point, for the purpose of the record, there is a quorum of both the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, and I will take nominations.
Nominate Maria Carafellis.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? There being none, I will give the nominee an opportunity to make some comments, if she so chooses. I would be grateful.
Hi, everyone. By now you all know me and who I am and what my passions are. And I would be honored and pleased if you would consider me for another 3-year term to represent Chelmsford on the Neshoba Tech School Committee. And I will also continue to be a member of the Budget Subcommittee representing Chelmsford. Other than for that, that's it, guys. I kept it short and sweet. He told me to.
Thank you.
I merely politely suggested. At this point, the members of the school committee will vote first. Evelyn Thorne,
Aye.
Barbara Scar,
Aye.
Michael Rigney,
Aye.
Nick DeSilvio,
Aye.
Alan Thomas,
Aye.
Matthew Hanson.
Aye.
I should read the cards, right? Bob Joyce,
Aye.
George Dixon,
Aye.
Janet Askenberg,
Aye.
and the chairman, Pat Wojcik.
Aye.
That being said, it's unanimous vote, and congratulations, Maria Carafellis.
Thank you,
And thank you for serving another 3 years. And now I will move to, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the joint meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'll see you guys on TV.
Hopefully.
Okay. I guess the order of this meeting has been turned back over to me now, so
Yes.
we will move on with public service announcements. Is Steve Murray here to talk about the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund?
Good evening. I'm Steve Murray, the president of the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund, and thank you for having us here today. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to say thank you. This fund's been great. It's been in existence for over 50 years. And over 50 years, we've given out $1.3 million in scholarships, and last year alone, almost $51,000. And it's not through, even though it's this Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund, it's really a private organization, and we raise our money through donations and fundraisers. And it's something that's really been benefiting the Chelmsford kids for a while, and want to continue doing that. So thank you for your support.
Okay, and we do have a proclamation that Janet will read honoring this scholarship month.
Whereas the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund was founded on April 8th, 1957, and has been awarding scholarships continually since that date, totaling over $1 million. The fund obtains its income from voluntary contributions from individuals, organizations, and businesses, and does not obtain any funding from tax revenues. And whereas the fund exists to provide financial assistance in the form of scholarships to Chelmsford residents who have completed secondary school and wish to continue their undergraduate education. The fund awards scholarships based on need, scholastic achievement, college acceptance, and qualities of character. And whereas citizens may assist the annual fund appeal in March by mailing contributions to Treasurer, P.O. Box 296, Chelmsford, Mass. 01824, with checks made payable to the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund, Inc. Memorial contributions in honor of special occasions or individuals may also be made. And whereas the fund has awarded over $1,408,020 to students, including awards given out in 2014 totaling over $49,600. This year will mark the fund's 58th anniversary. And now, therefore, we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, this honorable body, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2015 as Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Month, and calls upon its citizens to support and encourage the officers and directors of this organization in their annual fund drive. Signed this 23rd day of March 2015, Pat Woj as chairman, Janet Askenberg, Bob Joyce, George Dixon, Matt Hansen, and Honorina Maloney, town clerk.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good work. Good job.
Congratulations.
Okay. Next up is Veterans Agent Regina Jackson.
Hi, I'm here this evening to introduce Shannon Nagel and Jonathan Roach. However, Jonathan couldn't be with us tonight. And these two Chelmsford young people have been nominated by Congresswoman Tsongas to attend one of the service academies. It's a very, very competitive process, so I just want to make sure that Shannon and Jonathan realize that we are very, very impressed. So if I could just read the citation from Congresswoman Tsongas. In honor of receiving a congressional nomination to one of the nation's prestigious military academies, having demonstrated academic excellence, achievements in athletics and extracurricular activities, and a strong desire to serve your community and country, your commitment to excellence in personal accomplishments bring great credit upon yourself, your family, and the 3rd District of Massachusetts, and may I add, the town of Chelmsford.
Thank you.
Okay, and we also have a certificate of recognition that we would like to present to both, but we'll, let me read it first. The certificate of recognition is hereby presented to Shannon Nagel in honor of receiving a congressional nomination to one of the nation's prestigious military academies, having demonstrated academic excellence achievements in athletics and extracurricular activities, and a strong desire to serve your community and country. Your commitment to excellence and personal accomplishments bring great credit upon yourself, your family, and the town of Chelmsford. Awarded this 23rd day of March, 2015, signed by myself, Pat Wojcik, Janet Askenberg, Bob Joyce, George Dixon, and Matt Hansen, and sealed by Honorina Maloney. Congratulations, Shannon.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Oh, West Point. Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Okay, next up we have Amrith Prabhu for the Take Back the Night. Good evening. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that program?
Sure. We are here from the Center for Hope and Healing, which functions as the Rape Crisis Center of Greater Lowell. We proudly...
Hold the mic down. That's good.
Better? We proudly serve the Chelmsford community and other cities in the surrounding area, and we have for the last 40 years. Every April marks Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and during this month, Take Back the Night marks is an event held that marks in support and solidarity of survivors of sexual violence. And this year is our 10th anniversary that celebrates the prevention of sexual violence in Chelmsford and 10 years of access to services for residents of this community. Allison Tully will tell you a little bit more about what we're looking for specifically for this 10th year.
As leaders of this community, we encourage you to share this event on social media with friends, family, and colleagues, along with helping us promote this 10th anniversary with the press, maybe on the Chelmsford website, if that's possible. We still have opportunities available for volunteers, peacekeepers, and speakers. If you yourself or anyone you know is interested, please contact us. And if you have any ideas or know anyone who is with the press, we would be happy to connect with you about that as well. So.
Okay.
I didn't mention that it's on April 16th at 6 p.m. And starts at Lowell City Hall.
Now, what exactly is it? Is it like a march or something that you do at that time?
Yeah, their rally begins at Lowell City Hall, and there's several dignitaries that speak, including the mayor from Lowell, and we invite definitely someone from Chelmsford to speak. And then there's a walk that goes to UML. We acknowledged this year that there's a wide effort to end campus sexual violence, and so therefore the main event is on the campus of UMass Lowell.
Okay.
And their survivors can speak up about violence that has happened against them and just have the community there to support them and listen and be there for them and just stand up against violence. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
good.
Any questions, ladies? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Beth Logan?
I'm speaking on behalf of the Chelmsford Dog Association, and the Chelmsford Dog Association and the town of Chelmsford are working together, as you know, to open a dog park this year, and we want to first thank the town for their effort. But we have a deadline coming up on April 1st for bricks. When you first enter the dog park, there will be a brick patio with engraved bricks, and the deadline to order the bricks so that they're there for opening day is April 1st. The forms are in your packet, and I want to tell everybody we've had some questions about what they are. Some people do engraved bricks as memorials to people, to memorials as dogs, just listing their own names, their dogs' names, nice comments about their dogs. But we've even had businesses, local businesses like Zesties and Workers Credit Union buy bricks. And we've had our state senator, Mike Barrett, with his dog Juno, buy a brick, and our state rep, Tom Golden. So, having said these great people in town who are buying bricks, I want to remind everybody to join in and buy a brick and support. And there are forms in your packet, and anybody who's interested, I have forms here. And there's also online, if you go to www.chelmsforddogassociation.org, you can get a form. And if none of those work, they're also downstairs in the town clerk's office. And we look forward to it. It'll be fun this summer. And we'll have a good time with the dogs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, we're now at the open session part of the meeting. If anybody here would like to address the board about any topic, now would be the time to do that.
Was somebody else coming up?
No, many people, so you can go first.
That's why I sat in the front row. Evelyn Thorne, 18 Pinewood Road. One of the things that we had briefly discussed at the school committee meeting last week dealt with efficiencies. And when we were talking about different things, there was some questions as to when the school and the town actually considered consolidation. So I did some research in my computer and went back, and I'm going to hand out a packet of information to you. And in the packet are the minutes from the cost savings subcommittee and the revenue generating subcommittee that was done in fiscal year 2005. So I figured that if we had these documents, you wouldn't have to look for them, so that's efficient for us to go forward. Also, as far as having a list of things to take a look at so that we wouldn't be trying to brainstorm things that may have already been suggested. Some of the suggestions that were made 10 years ago may be more viable today with technology and other types of things. We don't know until we take a look at those. A lot of things have been implemented that have saved us money over the years, and also in terms of revenue generating, we unfortunately with the schools we've created more fees, and fee costs have changed also within the town. But I wanted to at least give you a list. Like I said, there's several documents that's within this packet. It's better to, I think, sometimes have a hard copy than for me to just send it to you. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but let me hand these out.
Okay,
we're here right now.
that'll give us something to look at going forward on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can have highlights for us.
Thank you.
You'll also see at the last page, and if anybody wants an electronic copy, you certainly can request it and I can send it to you. On the last page, Kevin Porter, who was a school committee member at the time, made a list, spreadsheet, that if we wanted to take a look at and analyzing all of the different suggestions, that we had a format under which we could do that. So again, a lot of the things that's on here are very interesting. I'm certainly sure that we'll have more public discussion as a result of wanting to see exactly how we can better do it. I think that one of the things that was amusing was when I typed up just the summary on the front, I went to say that we were facing financial challenges then. I think we're facing them every year, and I think that maybe every 5 to 10 years we should put on some future agenda or some little red flag type of thing that we should take a look and see if there's anything that we can do differently moving forward so that we can certainly not have so much impact on taxpayers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know you know who I am. I'm Mary Donovan, Tanglewood Drive in Chelmsford. I'm here tonight to say thank you for giving me the education on what it is to be involved in politics. I want to thank Bob Joyce tremendously for all his help in trying to keep the historical things in town and trying so hard to save it. I am here to tell you some bad news. One is, I know I was a loser in saving the fire station, but I also was a winner because I learned how to get grant money, and I did succeed in getting over $150,000 in grant money, not from the state, not from federal government. I also got donations promised from a bank and 3 businesses and many taxpayers. I was shocked up to this day that how many people really wanted to save it, and I thought there'd be a committee to see about renovating. I had 3 contractors saying it could have been renovated, and I was surprised when no committee was made. Secondly, I was kind of shocked on 2 other occasions. One, at the town meeting, the building inspector said you couldn't change the name of the fire station. A few weeks later, or a few weeks back, I noticed the town hall's name got changed at a flash, and no comment. I also noticed that, remember back, Matt Hansen was asked, how many people did you talk to about saving the fire station? That took me by shock because he said 5. Well, there was 39 people wanted to save it at the town meeting. Anyway, as of today, 3 weeks ago,
Matt, let Mary finish.
3 weeks ago, I sent back the foundation money that I got, over $150,000, and I have shredded all the names and addresses of people that I had gotten all this information from. And as of right now, I'm on the committee, thanks to Bob Joyce putting me out there, for something to go on that place. I cannot stay on the committee because my heart is not in spending taxpayers' money when I couldn't save the fire station. So as my mother said, you can be a loser, but you can also be a winner. I am a winner, because tonight I am done. You'll have to find somebody else to go on the committee.
Okay, you will have to write a letter to the town clerk.
She's going to have it tomorrow. I have it written.
Okay.
But I didn't feel I needed to give writing a letter here.
No, okay,
But thank you, Bob Joyce.
You're
And
welcome.
I hope you still succeed in saving the history of the town of Chelmsford.
We'll do the best we can.
thank you for
Thank
serving.
you. Goodbye.
Mary. Okay, anyone else that would like to address us in open session?
Just a quick question. Will there be an opportunity for people to speak in the reports and presentation session? Later
For
on
the
in the meeting?
Stedman Street, yes,
There will be?
yes.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, folks. Bill Griffin, Precinct 9, but I'm here in capacity as the chair for the 101 Mill Committee, and wasn't planning on presenting anything tonight, but I know by quick exchange, Janet and Pat have been liaison, so I'm here on the off chance that you might want to ask a couple of questions. Otherwise, we'll be happy to see you at the next session.
I don't think we have any questions at this time, and you're not on the agenda, so I
understand. I
would
just want to make
be
sure that we were
uncomfortable
covered.
doing that.
I unfortunately, there's, with business and stuff like that, I did catch your message rather late and didn't want to leave you
yeah.
short on the input.
I
so.
just left a message asking if there was anything in particular, because I was in Chicago last week
Yeah,
while they
so
met.
we're all busy.
Just asking if there was anything they wanted me to bring forward. But I do
Good.
have some notes to bring forward to the committee.
Excellent. Perfect.
thank you.
Okay. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak to us in open session? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to committee vacancies.
Committee vacancies as of March 23rd, 2015. There's currently 1 vacancy on the 101 Mill Road Committee, 1 vacancy on the Arts and Technology Education Fund Committee, 1 vacancy on the Community Preservation Committee, 2 vacancies on the Cultural Council, 1 vacancy on the Great Brook Farm Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy on the Historical Commission, 1 vacancy on the Land Management Subcommittee, 1 vacancy on the Personnel Board, and 1 vacancy on the Tree Committee. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, please fill out the committee application. It's available on the town website, www.townofchelmsford.us.
And a potential,
Well,
But we
it's not
could handle
official,
that
so I'm not going
Yeah.
to mention it.
differently.
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, on to a couple of licenses we have this evening. A 1-day all alcohol license for the Westford Education Foundation.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Fahey, and I'm on the Westford Education Foundation, and we're applying for a 1-day all liquor license to hold our 10th annual benefit gala fundraiser at St. Martin's Church on April 11, 2015. We usually have approximately we hope for more people, but around 120 people in attendance. And we sell beer, liquor, beer, wine, and usually one signature drink.
Is this event open to the public?
It is.
Okay.
Tickets are on our website. They're advertised all through Westford. Chelmsford people are more than welcome to attend.
Okay.
We don't hold back anyone. And I believe this is maybe our 4th year having it in Chelmsford here.
Any questions for the applicant?
I make a,
Andrea will be present. Andrea Cuomo. Who's the tip certified person?
Oh, yes, the two bar,
Yeah,
I gave the two,
yeah, and she'll be there, right?
yep, they will be there. They sent those over, and it's the Andover Liquors, yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
I make a motion to approve a one-day all-alcohol license for Westford Education Foundation on April 11, 2015, for the hours of 6:30 p.m. to 12 o'clock a.m. to be exercised on the premises at 180 Old Westford Road.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Look.
Okay, next is one-day beer and wine license for St. Vartanant's Church, and this is for an event that they had scheduled in February for Mardi Gras. It did not happen because of weather, so this is where they applied to have their event on April 18th. Instead, we told them they did not have to come here for the application since, as I said previously, it was approved. So unless anybody has any concerns or
Should we amend
questions. No,
Should we amend the license? No.
I wouldn't say. Why shouldn't?
Well, did we approve it as February?
Yes, we approved it, but, so basically, we're giving them a license for April 18th instead of February 14th.
Right.
But we
should amend-
did.
We should amend it. Shouldn't we amend it? No. Because the
It's a
first
different
license-
No, the
license.
date's changed.
It's a different
and-
license, it's a
Oh,
different
okay.
form and everything.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
that's
So
fine.
this will wipe out the other one.
Right.
Oh,
that they
okay,
never
so we're
used.
gonna issue a brand-new one.
Correct.
Good,
That's what
thank
we,
you.
yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve a one-day beer and wine license for St. Vartanant's Armenian Church on April 18th, 2015, for the hours of 5 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. to be exercised on the premises at 180 Old Westford Road.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Ed Turner. Is he here? For a roadside vendor license? I don't see him. Okay, the letter did ask that he be here. Let's give him a little time and see if he shows up. Next then is a common victual license for Dunkin' Donuts.
And we heard them last
Evening,
meeting.
how are you?
That's right.
Oh, she's back.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
So-
and, yeah, there was some corrections and
Yes, on the
other
seating.
information that
Okay,
we
was
had
there any
asked.
further information that you required?
It looks good to me. Does anybody else have any?
I think we just wanted to confirm how many seats
Okay.
Right.
and what the seating chart looked like.
And what the opening date was.
Well, I know, I wish we were a little behind on that. So hopefully by the 2nd of April, 2nd or 3rd is the
wow.
target date.
Oh, that's quick.
So,
Yeah. Very
yeah,
good.
they go fast.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to make that coffee, huh? Okay, have anything else? So entertain a motion then?
I make a motion to approve the application for common victular to Dunkin' Donuts to be exercised on the premises at 18 Boston Road.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have the transfer of underground storage licenses for 5 Drum Hill Road and 80 Chelmsford Street.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. For the record, Douglas DeShane, representing the applicant. My clients control 2 gas stations, one at 80 Chelmsford Street, the Sunoco station, the other being at 5 Drum Hill Road, the Cumberland Farms at Drum Hill. They have possessed underground storage tanks licenses at these facilities since 1938 and 1972, respectively. The family had recently transferred the ownership of the stations into nominee trusts for purposes of estate planning, and it's required that the storage license be held in the names
of the owners. So we're asking for a transfer from the individuals themselves to the realty trusts that were created. I've provided you the names of the two nominee trusts with the application. So we're asking your consideration in transferring those licenses.
Okay, do you have any questions for the applicant? No. Seems pretty straightforward. Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the transfer of the underground, above-ground storage licenses at 80 Chelmsford Street and 5 Drum Hill Road from J. Robert Ekstrom and Alice R. Ekstrom to A. R. Ekstrom Nominee Trust.
Seconded?
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Wait.
Excuse me, just for
that not correct?
clarification, the station at 80 Chelmsford Street is the J.R. Ekstrom Nominee Trust, as you
Okay.
stated. However, the 5 Drum Hill is the A.R. Ekstrom.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it.
It's just one's J.R., one is A.R. Just wanted to be clear.
Not exactly the same.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Take them separately.
If you want, you want to take them separately then?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, motion to approve the transfer of the underground, above-ground storage license at 80 Chelmsford Street from J. Robert Ekstrom and Alice R. Ekstrom to J.R. Ekstrom Nominee Trust.
Seconded?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the transfer of the underground, above-ground storage license at 5 Drum Hill Road from J. Robert Ekstrom and Alice R. Ekstrom to A. R. Ekstrom Nominee Trust.
Seconded?
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we have several reports this evening. First one, Town Clerk Honorina Maloney.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. And thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak to you this evening about the upcoming annual town election. We are indeed excited about our upcoming town election, which will be held on Tuesday, April 7th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. Precincts 2 and 3 will vote at the Senior Center, located at 75 Groton Road. Precincts 7 and 8 will vote at the McCarthy Middle School Small Gym, and precincts 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9 will vote at the McCarthy Middle School Large Gym. The McCarthy Middle School is located at 250 North Road. Absentee ballots are now in, and any voter who will be out of town on Election Day cannot get to the polls due to a physical disability or for religious reasons may send a written request for an absentee ballot or may come to the clerk's office and vote over the counter up until noon on Monday, April 6th. By April 1st, all voters in precincts 2 and 3 will receive a notification card in the mail to remind them that their polling location has been changed to the Senior Center, and all voters in precincts 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9 will receive a reminder card to remind them that they will be voting at the McCarthy Middle School Large Gym. And if you are a registered voter and have moved within Chelmsford and are not sure if you have updated your new address, please contact the clerk's office. And now some points to remember on Tuesday, April 7th. Do not wear any buttons or other campaign-related anything within the 150 no campaign zone or inside the polling place. Bring your identification, and just in case it is needed, especially if your census is not up to date. Very, very important, because you will be asked to fill out some forms. Before checking in and obtaining your ballot, please take a few minutes to peruse the sample ballots that are posted at the polling place. Sample ballots are also available online by visiting the town's website. Please turn off your cell phones inside the polling place. Children are welcome to accompany you and observe, but cannot place the ballot inside the machine. Very important. It looks cute, but they cannot do that. Only the voter can do that. So if the press is here, please remember that. Remember, you will be checking in and checking out by address and then last name followed by first name. And the election workers are trained to repeat your address and full name, both the check-in and check-out. After you deposit your ballot, you will receive a cute I voted sticker, and we ask that you wear it with pride all day long. On Wednesday, April 8th at 6 p.m. in the Dennis Reddy meeting room, that's this room right here, during the Selectmen's reorganizational meeting, I will have the distinct pleasure to swear in all newly elected and re-elected townwide officials. The town meeting representatives will be sworn in at the first session of the spring annual town meeting on Monday, April 27th. So why should voters, Chelmsford voters, vote on April 7th? Many feel that it's just an annual town election. Voter turnout is usually low, so why bother? Why don't we change that? By voting, we choose our leaders, you and many others, those who share our views and those who may inspire us. 2 town-wide races are contested this year, and we have many, many vacancies on the town meeting representative slate. And as a reminder to all viewing at home, town meeting representatives are the legislative body of Chelmsford. The right to vote is a fundamental right in our society and is the cornerstone of democracy. When you vote, you choose the elected officials who will make the laws and policies that govern this municipality. The person you vote for is the person who's going to represent you over the next 1, 2, 3, and even 5 years. Engage with the candidates by contacting them. This gives you an opportunity to know whether or not they feel differently about issues and whether or not they are willing to speak on your behalf if elected. Working in municipal government can be difficult as there are many issues to deal with. Candidates who express their readiness and willingness to take on this responsibility and show a genuine concern for Chelmsford make the best elected officials. Voting is a powerful way to send a message. The more votes, the more powerful the message. In other words, every vote does count. So I am asking all Chelmsford voters to change tradition. Let's have a high voter turnout on April 7th and get out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the town clerk?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm a little disappointed that one of our traditions of swearing in people the night of the election is going away. Seems like every year we get rid of another tradition that, is there any possibility that you won't do that?
I will be swearing in on Wednesday, April 8th.
Okay, so you're not going to do it election night?
I'm not going to do it on election night. And the reason being, Mr. Joyce, we need to be cognizant that some races may be close.
Right.
Exactly.
And when that case happens, then.
But even when it's not close, the election by law should be certified before any swearing in takes place. That is why going forward, we'll start hopefully a new and lawful tradition.
Okay.
Thank you.
It'll be a party in the room.
There you go.
But please, this is still home base, so I hope people will still come to Town Hall on April 7th. Are there any other questions? Thank you again for the opportunity. Again, get out to vote on April 7th. Thank you.
We will.
Okay, next up, Matt Hansen is going to tell us about the STEDMAN Street traffic update.
Yes. Okay. Some good news first. NIMCOG just recently released their new traffic volume study for 2014. I have the report here. It is on their website. And I just wanted to briefly let everyone know traffic on STEDMAN Street has been relatively flat for a period of 5 to 10 years approximately. So I think that's the first good news. I do have a few different numbers here. Stedman Street at the Lowell City line, 2003, 8,400 drivers per day. 2006, that was 8,600. A few different. Stedman Street north of Route 110 back in 2008, it was 9,800. 2013, the last year they did it at that location, was 9,600. And then they've done 4 other locations, again, all between the 8 and 10,000 range from 2004 to 2014. So if you're interested in any other locations in Chelmsford, I have a map here. NIMCOG's really great at collecting data all over the town every year, sometimes different locations. Sometimes they skip a year so they can hit other locations. I don't know if anyone at home can see that. Again, this is on the NIMCOG website. So I think that's the first good information. I did talk.
Can I stop you? Does that mean the traffic has not gone up in Stedman Street?
Yes.
Certainly the residents of the Stedman Street wouldn't agree with you there.
Well, let Matt
Okay,
finish his
all right,
presentation.
okay, all right, go ahead.
Then you can.
Yeah, the data
then you
must
can
be
question
lying.
him.
I'm sure it's.
Then you
sure
can.
it's rigged.
Then you can.
Okay, then I can
dispute
pummel
it.
them.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do the study, so I didn't rig it. If that's what you're suggesting.
No,
I
I'm
don't
not.
think you are.
I'm suggesting that it's not
I
accurate.
think that goes without saying that you
Right.
didn't.
The second thing is, I spoke to Beverly, the director at the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, about looking at this area more depth than just a traffic study, because this is a recurring issue. And we also received some good news at our last meeting on March 18th. Northern Middlesex Council of Governments will be receiving the second half of our DLTA 8 funds, which are District Local Technical Assistant Grant funds. We have another $52,000 left. NIMCOG's going to be sending out an RFP to the different communities on April 1st, and I asked if it would be appropriate for us to apply for a study of the Stedman Street corridor, a traffic study, but also to look at some of the issues regarding truck traffic and alternate routes and things like that. She did mention, and we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting when this was brought up, that there really doesn't appear to be enough truck traffic to warrant any no truck signs or anything like that. But where this was brought up as a serious concern from the residents, and we do have the money available, and she said it would be an appropriate use of those funds. I anticipate, just speaking with Paul about having us submit an application to apply for these funds when they're released. When they release the RFPs on April 1st, so we can get an in-depth analysis and just some further study of it and see if there are any different ideas that come out related to traffic flow, maybe things with lights and other pedestrian safety improvements or anything that might come out of it. So.
Okay. All right, Bob, you have any more questions now for Matt?
You can keep this, Bob. That's for you.
Wow.
Yeah. I know where to get another copy.
No, I just think it's interesting that they're reporting that there's no real change in traffic because we've heard so much, at least my 1 year here and sitting in the audience for years before that, there were always issues with trucks.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really show in this, right?
No, this
That's
particular
what the-
study didn't separate out trucks versus cars, but if we have them do this study this year, we will have them take a look at both
Okay.
truck and car traffic, because if we were to ever apply for a truck exclusion, we would need recent data on the truck-specific numbers.
Okay. All right. No, I'm just surprised, that's all.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Just a couple questions. So they're putting out an RFP on April 1st. Now, is that open to, that's open to everyone, right?
Yeah,
So
all
there
the
may be
member
other
communities.
communities applying as well?
There will be, yes.
Okay, when's the decision?
It's a pretty quick turnaround. I think they're only releasing them for about 2 weeks to the communities, and I think they're actually going to make their decision by the middle of April, I think. Just looking at my notes here. I don't think I have the exact date here, but it'll basically be sometime in April. They'll be making the decision back to us. It'll be pretty quickly. And I felt pretty confident that some funding would be available for this. There's usually not too much of a fight, especially if one of the member communities has a strong preference for a project. It's pretty certain that it will get funded.
Okay. And then just kind of walk me through the timeline. So say we're awarded the project. When could we anticipate them, doing the traffic study and?
I guess I'd have to speak with the traffic planners and to see how this fits in with, this would fit in with the other work that they currently have going.
It would be
but
this
they-
calendar year,
Yeah, it
for
would
sure.
definitely
This
be.
year? Okay.
Yeah,
within
because
the
those
next
funds,
few
those funds
months.
have to be expended by the end of the calendar year.
Right.
Okay. Do they then come and do a presentation to this board of the findings?
We could ask them to, certainly.
Okay. Yeah, I'd certainly like to see that and the analysis. Now, in that traffic study, so they'll gather the data. Do they make recommendations as well?
I mean, if we ask them to do that in the RFP, I guess it would be how we write the RFP. So I'd like a few recommendations, at least on what the options are that are available related
Absolutely.
to the truck and car traffic there, if there are any options available. I'd like those spelled out for us. So rather than just having the data and the numbers, the options for us are what I think we're really interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we write the RFP?
Yes. We respond to it with our
So
request.
Paul and his staff. would
Generally,
have-
Evan usually drafts it,
Oh,
and then,
okay.
and then it goes out under my signature, but I'll be glad to share
That'll
it.
come before
Well,
the board
right,
first?
I'm glad to share it out with you before it goes out, sure, of course.
We'd have to.
The question would be as long as we meet the timelines, because I think we meet the 13th of April, so I'll put it on your agenda for the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think the deadline's either the 13th or the 14th, but.
Yeah, so
Or
we'll
if
get
it's
we'll get
just,
it.
or if it's just, editing or something that
Right.
you want to, pass it by
no,
everybody
we'll bring
first.
it-
And they extend
Could
that
always
through
add it to
Golden
the
Cove
reorg
Road?
meeting as an agenda item.
We'll see.
If
We'll
we
see if
can
we
get it in
need to.
time.
We might not
I mean,
need
it's
to.
only, it's only another.
I mean, I don't know that we would need to, depending on what comes out.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea, George. I heard what you said, but.
We had one done a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and it has to do with percentages, trucks versus cars.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
And the big argument was there was a big truck increase.
Mhm.
Problem was proportionately, it was a much larger automobile traffic
Right.
increase.
That's kind of
Mhm.
Which worked
Cut
which
through.
totally against us, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Luskin, you had asked about, did you have some other questions you'd like to raise?
Thank you very much. Jack Luskin, 34 Stedman Street.
Oh, sir.
I'd like to thank Matt for bringing this before the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, the idea of a study. I have just a couple of comments, and then I brought some slides. I don't know if we need to see them. They're photos that show some interesting aspects of traffic planning. One of the questions that I had was, you said that the good news is that the traffic is leveled off at 9,600 cars a day. I don't consider that good news. 9,600 cars a day on Stedman Street is just extraordinary.
No, not the number. The fact that it hasn't gone up in 10
Oh, no,
years.
I understand that. I understand that, but I don't consider that it hasn't gone up. Good news. If it went down, that would be good news, but it didn't.
That's fair.
And I agree with Bob. I would question the accuracy of the study. I don't know who did the study, how the study was conducted.
Would you like me maybe to elaborate? Because I did actually ask for some clarification
Sure,
on that.
that'd be great.
I wanted to make sure that it wasn't necessarily always done on the same week or the same weekend. And they actually rotate through. There's sort of a long and short answer. They do pick different days of the week, different weeks, and in a few month period. And they compare that data again every time that they do it off of a state calculation, basically, for whatever day of the week that it was taken for all of these studies. And it's based on a calculation of how is overall traffic that day, that year compared to
Okay.
again past years. It's a little complicated, but there's a little bit of averaging that goes on, and they do it on different days to try and have the averages be realistic rather than always doing it the exact same day. That might be a little deceiving.
Okay. The other question that I had before I talk about the other issues is there any opportunity for residents and citizens to get involved in the actual response to the RFP in terms of helping design the study? I mentioned the last time we had a discussion about this that there was a traffic count. It wasn't a traffic study, that Paul was gracious enough to share the raw data with me. And it didn't make any sense how the traffic count was set up. And so it would be nice to have some engagement with the people who might be doing planning the study, so that the study is actually representative of the residents and the street as opposed to what the state would like to see.
There's probably some way we can either try and incorporate your feedback into the RFP, and then also before they actually start putting people on the ground counting things or looking
Right.
at intersections, to have a meeting with the neighborhood residents first. That might be a possibility.
Yeah, we can talk about that after the fact. I don't know if you want to see some of the slides that I have up there. They're interesting.
Do you have?
He's got us-
Where are they?
You could just, they're right here.
Okay.
Can you see them?
Give it to Paul.
If we can be brief, please. I mean, we do have a
Yeah.
pretty heavy agenda this evening.
You find it? It should be BOS 323. So I've been trying to make sense of traffic engineers and how they go about thinking of traffic issues and patterns, and how then they're followed up by the departments of public transportation. And an example of what confuses me is this sign that is just down the street from Bertucci's, and it says no Jake brakes allowed. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Jake brakes are when a truck downshifts to slow down instead of applying brakes, and so what you hear is that this sign
That's good.
Yeah, it's
faces away from Chelmsford Center. Does that make any sense? No, because the next place a truck would stop would be Hunt Road, which is a few miles down the road. So this was designed by the state, I'm assuming because it's 110, it's a state
Right, it's state road.
sign.
Yep.
It's facing the wrong way. And it sort of, to me, it says, aha, so this is the way the state does traffic studies. On Dalton Road, there is when they straightened Dalton Road out, the residents were concerned about cars going faster, and the engineer said, don't worry, we're going to paint traffic calming lines. So they paint a line down either side of the road to slow traffic down. If you've ever been on Dalton Road during the day, you know that that doesn't work. If you could, I'll try to get through this quickly. So the next thing that confuses me is how the state determines which roads they can apply regulations to and which they don't have to. So we've been told on a number of occasions that you can't direct traffic away from a route to a state numbered road or to a federal road. I looked at Wynn Street, if you're familiar with Wynn Street, which crosses 128 and goes from Woburn up to Burlington. And there are some very interesting signs. But before I show you the signs, there's one other sign I wanted to show you in Chelmsford. And the next slide, this sign is in Drum Hill. And can you see that? No trucks? That's the only sign. No other signs that say anything about trucks on North Road. And so when people are concerned about the increase in traffic on North Road, part of the problem might be that the signage is not very good.
Well, Jack, I will note that they do have the signs on Route 3.
Right, but when you get off of Route 3, and I think unfortunately a lot of trucks that don't use commercial GPS, so it doesn't say that trucks aren't allowed on North Road or Route 4.
Yeah.
So, but there are issues here. So if you go to the next slide, so this is Wynn Street, and you can see off in the distance, way in the very distance, you'll see an overhead. That's 120, overpass. That's 128. So we're way before 128. We're heading north toward Burlington. Next. As you get closer, you see that there are signs that say no trucks over 2.5 tons. Another sign about trucks. Keep going. Now we're closer yet, and there are more signs. They're very clear, very obvious. And the point of these signs are no trucks on Wynn Street beyond 128, Route 95. So somehow, Burlington managed to get the state to say it was okay to exclude truck traffic from Wynn Street because they're not allowed on Wynn Street. Trucks over 2.5 tons, which is not a very big truck. So I just wanted to show you those slides and ask that question that confuses me is, so how do they apply their regulations? I mean, who's to say in one town yes, in the next town no? One of the other issues, you can hit the slide again, Again, this is just more signs. One of the other issues is in the Boston Globe had an article just the other day, March 5th, and this is an ongoing and a growing area of study, and it has to do with particulate pollution and its health effects. And this study talks about evidence of health effects from particulate that are emitted from trucks and from cars on highways, but then it also talks about traffic in general. And they mention here that it suggests that those who live within 1,500 feet of a highway have a greater likelihood of developing cardiovascular disease than those who live twice as far away. So what I did was I went to Google Maps. You can flip it ahead, I'm sorry, Paul. And what I did was I measured the distance on Google Maps from the corner that I live at down to Route 495, and it's 1,800 feet as opposed to 1,500 feet. So everybody who lives closer to 495 is exposed to higher levels. Now, I know that changing 495 is not something that we necessarily can even begin to think about doing, but everyone who lives anywhere near those major highways is exposed to a higher concentration of particulate pollution, which means or translates to a higher risk of a whole range of diseases, cardiovascular being one of them. Next one. So this is this one sheet that comes from, I took a couple of sections because they were too big, from this traffic count that was done last September. And you'll notice that there's 8,444 cars in this particular day, and there are 629 trucks and buses. 7% of all the traffic are cars and buses. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is, and we've heard it tonight, the state likes to talk about ratios of cars to trucks, right, before they do anything about truck traffic. So the theory behind that, if you push that to its limits, is if we allow an increase in car traffic, that means that we'll have additional trucks, and that's okay. Well, that might be okay for the state, but that doesn't make any sense for the communities. So that's something that I think needs to be looked at. And my question is, who makes those decisions? Who's the one that says car to truck ratios is what we should go by, as opposed to impact on communities? So these are fairly large numbers.
Where did you get this study? I'm sorry.
I got these. This was a road count that was done last September. Paul has the data. It's raw data, and I have yet to see several things. I have yet to see the analysis of this data. I have yet to see why the traffic count was done, who designed it, which gets back to my earlier question, because the design just doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever, and it was only a couple of days. So that's what this data, and I have it on, I can send it to you if you don't have it readily available, Paul.
That might have been done as a result of the
Golden
STEDMAN.
Cove.
Yeah, Golden Cove.
Yeah, but that was long after we
Yeah,
did the
that-
Golden
We
Cove.
had it
thing.
done, we had it done especially for this. That's why
But
it's
that
only a
was
couple of
September-
days it was done.
That was September just last year. and-
Because it was a rush job, that's why it was
Yeah, it was done by the police department.
done quickly, because we were
That was done by-
reviewing the original one, and we were just trying to check the numbers.
Okay, well, whatever, I think, yeah.
So it would basically be nice to know why it was done and what's happening with what's the analysis and what's happening with the results. How are the results being used? So that's one slide, if you can move it ahead. This is another one, which I might be interpreting this incorrectly, but what it looks like it says in the bottom right is that one day there are 194 vehicles that went more than 65 miles an hour. And this is about, on one side of Dalton Road, it's probably about 100 feet. On the other side, it's not even that much, where these tubes were. So, I mean, again, I'm not sure I'm interpreting this correctly. There was nothing that described what the data, all of the data was, but I thought that was pretty interesting. So there's very high speeds, and unfortunately, this doesn't separate out who's going at what speeds, whether these are trucks, and some of the trucks move pretty quickly, whether they're trucks or cars, or both. It doesn't say. Now, they might have that data available. I don't know. You can flip it again. So just to sort of tie this together, these are some thoughts that I had for local government, for you, for the regional government, the, I can't. NIMCOG. And the state DOT, in terms of traffic and safety issues. One is that it would be nice to have a more meaningful engagement with residents. I mean, we're the people that live in these communities, and yet these agencies that do the traffic studies and make the traffic designs don't seem to be connected to the residents. They sort of do their own thing, and nobody really knows what the criteria are for them doing their regulations. It would be nice to have regulations that support business, because you don't want to delay, have a negative impact on business, but at the same time, you don't want them to negatively affect residents. More consistent application of the balanced regulations. That goes back to why can you have different communities getting different priority treatments. And the last one is a plan for beginning the business, citizen, resident, government interface. How can we begin, or dialogue, how can we begin to talk with each other so that things are more meaningful, issues like quality of life get taken into consideration, et cetera. So what I'm suggesting is that there are a lot of people in town, people I've spoken to, who are very interested in traffic issues. I mean, I'm interested in Stedman Street because I'm on Stedman Street. And I've talked to a number of people. I thought at once upon a time there was a traffic and safety committee.
Yes.
Now it's traffic, it's pedestrian traffic and bicycles. But I thought there was a broad traffic and safety. I can't find it. I couldn't find it in any of the documents in the town. You probably have a better memory than I do.
Back when I served the first time, we had a traffic and safety committee that was made up of the town engineer, several police officers, and residents.
Okay.
And I don't know, Paul, if you dissolved that or Bernie did, but.
There's never been one in my existence.
No, okay, so it might have been Bernie that dissolved it.
See,
They would take things like that and they would come
For
back.
me, that's another issue that I don't understand. I mean, how can you separate traffic and safety, whether it's pedestrian, bicycle, or auto? I mean, they're all connected. Sorry. So, thank you very much for the
Good.
time. I
Yeah,
don't know
Matt
if you
has
have
a,
any-
I think to piggyback off that, I think some of those are great ideas, and I just wanted to actually plug the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. One of the things they're doing right now is doing some long-range strategic regional transportation planning. And actually Monday, March 30th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. at the Chelmsford Senior Center, they're going to be having a public input session for anyone with thoughts, concerns, or ideas about traffic congestion, bicycling, pedestrian safety, public transportation, or any other transportation issues are invited to join in the conversation about how we can plan for the region moving forward. They're also having public input sessions in Lowell and Tingsboro as well, but the one in Chelmsford will be on March 30th.
So somebody mentioned that to me, and I went on your site, and I could not find anything about that meeting.
what do you mean your site? Who's your
On
site?
the NEMCOG site.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where that notice is. I might have missed it, but I couldn't find it.
Okay, I think they just probably sent this out very recently to the city and town clerks, so
Okay.
maybe somewhere on our bulletin board or on our site, but I'll make sure it gets up on their website as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Town Accountant Darlene Lucier.
Good evening, Mayor and Chair and the Board of Selectmen. Tonight I'm just going to talk revenues, year-to-date budget revenues, expenditures through February. I want to first start off and talk about receipts. So again, these revenues are all through February 28th, so it's not really the quarter end, but first to talk about is the local receipts. So motor vehicle excise was one of our largest of the local receipt revenues. In January, we had a commitment of $3.7 million. That's about a 3.2% increase from last year's commitment. So those, we won't be seeing those coming in until they were due March. The bills were due in March, so when we do the March revenues, you'll see the revenue coming in for those for those being due. So when you're looking at the revenues, the commitment was made, but we really don't see the revenue being coming in the February timeframe. But just wanted to let you know where we were and what our commitment was for that, what we'll see be coming in. The meals tax and the rooms tax are both up from a year ago. The meals tax is 3.8% from last year, and the rooms are up 7.8% from last year at the same time. And if you're looking at, when you were looking at the revenues, you probably noticed that the tax lien account and the penalties and interest that we get from those tax liens were up tremendously from last year. That was due to a revenue that we got from the Glenview gravel, the Glenview real estate. So we got about $280,000 from the tax lien and just a little over $200,000 in the interest for that. So those are just kind of one-time monies that we got from those. And you can see that if you look at the top line where it says penalties and interest, last year we were at 2.25 and we're at 470. So that's where that extra $200,000 came into play, was from that tax lien. And Pal, can you just go down to the next line? You'll see there where you'll see the tax under real estate property tax. You see the tax lien, we had $400,000 last year, and this year it's at the 6. So that's the extra 2 that we got from the realty for Glenview. All the other revenues are coming in fairly strong. Permitting is strong. Everything seems to be fine. One thing we're not seeing this year that we've seen in the past, though, is any time of the one-time monies. We really haven't. We got a little bit of that FEMA money, but other than that, we're really not going to see any one-time monies coming in for this fiscal year. Expenditures. We've expended our funding levels through this should be 60.7. So we're on target with that. Probably the only account that really jumps out that's in the red is snow and ice, of course. I actually did meet with the DPW director today. This number is actually increased. We're probably looking at about we're looking at 550 is what our deficit's going to be. Since I did this report in February, we had a couple not snowstorms, but just snow events where they had to send the sanders out. One of them being just this on Saturday morning. The guys had to go back out and at least sand the roads. We had to get another delivery of salt, so we do have, that was another piece of this, would be the 550, is we had to get another delivery of salt that we're expecting in also. So it's just a little increase from where we were from February. And this is just a snapshot of where you can see under the encumbrance, I have at the time there was about $414,000 of the snow and ice invoices that we had invoiced out, but we hadn't received in yet. So I just kind of put that in as an encumbrance for that. All the other departments, everybody seems fine. I haven't had anybody coming forward. You know, we've been getting ready for a town meeting, and any budget issues that we have. We're not seeing many. We know we'll probably have to increase the veterans. We've had more requests come in, and we need to fund that. And I'm going to be a little out of facilities. But police and fire are bigger departments. Everybody seems to be right on track with their budgets. We don't see any issues going forward to get us through the end of the fiscal year. That's pretty much really all. If you have any questions on any of it.
Any questions?
It's pretty straightforward. When the quarterlies, we will be getting the state quarterly for the meals tax and that in the end of March in a couple weeks. So I'll be able to get you that out probably by the end of next week. I'll have those numbers for the quarterly report.
And with a new restaurant and a new Dunkin' Donuts in the center.
It's going to be all coming in. Yeah, Bob.
How things going on Munis?
You want to talk about the consolidation, you mean? Yeah. I can give you an update on that.
Thank you.
We just recently, what we had to do is we had to upgrade to the 10.5 version. So the 10.5 is installed in my test environment, so I'm in the middle of testing that. The school hasn't installed the 10.5 as of yet because we had to run a program that kind of ran through to see if you had any errors or any issues with having to upgrade. School had a lot of issues, so they, Mr. Antonelli, and it was mostly all in the payroll section, had to do a lot of work. And I just got an email, matter of fact, on Friday from Mr. Antonelli saying that he thinks he got everything fixed. So we're going to upgrade them to the 10.5. He wasn't in the office today, so I'm going to speak with him tomorrow to make sure he's ready to go with that. We need to do that first before we can start the consolidation. We have a kickoff meeting planned with the developer or with Munis, who's going to help us with this merge of consolidation. The only thing, the school had a little concern, there was some, they want to make sure my database is going to be the master database, so the school was going to lose some of its past history, and Mr. Antonelli had concerns about that along with myself, because we don't mind if it's stuff way back, but we would like to keep, at least 5 years of history, especially that they're trying to track a budget. They've had some budget issues, so they really want to have like 5 years of budget information. So there may be an additional cost for that, which the school, which I just got a quote today, it's only $2,200. We're not talking a lot of money, but Mr. Antonelli seems to think he can find $2,200 in his budget to do that. That'll be his piece. And we are moving forward. We've been talking about how, what I need, what he needs, in the sense of segments, what the DESI requires the schools to have for account numbers and all that. So we're working that out. There's enough space in the system to have all those numbers, so we're not seeing any issues.
Are they getting trained now, or will it be later that they get trained?
Well, what's happening is we're being trained on the new system first, on the 10.5. We have to learn the differences, and then the merging of the databases. They're going to be doing everything in a test environment.
Until you go live, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
understand.
you have to run parallels for a little bit to make sure that everything works fine, yeah.
That's how Oracle works and everything else works.
Yeah, but I don't see any I don't think we'll have any issues with making our June 30, or turning it on for July 1st. We don't go totally live July 1st, but I want to have the chart of accounts complete before Mr. Antonelli leaves on June 30th. So, and I don't think we shouldn't have any problem meeting that deadline.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Dolly? Thanks very much.
All righty, thank you.
Here we have a couple of bid awards. The first, the energy aggregation contract.
Are you talking or am I talking? Now that we've coordinated that, good evening, Madam Chairman, Selectmen. My name is Bob Andrews. I'm currently Chair of the Energy Conservation Committee. We have just gone through an RFP process looking for an energy aggregation consultant for the town. We had appeared previously. What we're looking to do here is to find a broker that will act on behalf of residents and small businesses to negotiate an electricity bulk purchase for residents, and in order to take care or take advantage of bulk or volume pricing, I guess is the best way to do it. We're going to go to BJ's and buy our electricity. And so, not really BJ's, but we have gone through the RFP process. We received 4 proposals, all of which we considered responsive or reasonably so. We evaluated the 4 proposals, scored them, and came to a preliminary decision before opening the fee proposal. Fee proposals were the same. All 4 proposals had the same fee proposal. So fee did not matter. We were able to move forward with a selection based on qualifications and criteria. We've made our recommendation to Mr. Cohen, and so we would like approval to move forward with this. Was there anything else I was supposed to say?
Okay, anybody have any questions about this proposal?
Paul, we hired someone through funding, some grant funding. Are they involved in this at all?
Mr. Joyce, may I present Michelle Arif,
Oh, okay.
our town energy manager. I'm sorry
Thank
she'd
you.
not been
Okay.
presented properly
The answer is
before.
yes. I hadn't met her yet, so, okay.
She's our grant.
Good, I just wanted to make sure that she was involved.
She is absolutely involved. She's
Okay.
been attending every Energy Conservation Committee meeting and is an active participant in reviewing and
Okay.
sharp on top of things. We're very pleased to have her.
Okay, good, thanks.
Don't let that go to your head.
Well, can you just give us a very quick ETA of the timeline? Excuse me.
At this point, we're probably looking 9 to 10 months down the road between setting up the program, and the broker will act on our behalf, submitting the program to both DOER, Department of Energy Resources, and DPU, the Department of Public Utilities, both of whom have to review our program and approve it before we can then go to the marketplace, at which point then we can give vendors of electricity a period of time, either 3-4 weeks, in order to prepare a bid. And then when we do get bids, we need to be prepared to move very quickly, because the bids will be essentially good for maybe a day, maybe at most 5 days, because we're purchasing electricity as a commodity on the commodity market, and the pricing changes sometimes hourly, but certainly daily. And so we'll need to be ready. At that point, we'll come back and let you know what we've come up with.
Yeah, I noticed that. I guess I have a question about that. So you get the prices, and then basically you bring them that day to this board, and we would have to make a decision that day?
That process needs to be figured out a little bit further with the help of DOER and DPU. We'd like to give you a little bit of time to prepare. We
That would be
understand.
good,
No, I understood completely. But again, it is a commodity pricing, so there may be a little bit of flexibility or a range, a small range, as opposed to several cents per kilowatt hour. But again, that needs to be figured out exactly the mechanism. That other towns have done it, so it's possible to do it. Just part of the learning curve that we're looking at.
Okay, and I also noticed on their proposal that they reference NSTAR versus National Grid. I'm sure it's...
That was an error that we noticed in one of the
Okay.
proposers. And so, we're still a National Grid
That was
town.
what I thought. So now...
Now it's
this-
Eversource.
No. National Grid is still National Grid. Eversource, NSTAR is Eversource.
So has Bay State Consultants worked with National Grid? I mean, obviously they have with NSTAR, since this must have been a template.
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll entertain a motion to move forward.
Make a motion to move forward with a plan to perform services related to the development of an energy aggregation plan and supply energy plan with Bay State Consultants.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we also have this evening our town property revaluation contract.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Board of Selectmen. On February 9th, we mailed out an RFP for this project to capture the descriptive property data for the residential, commercial, and industrial, with a due date of the 24th, February 24th. 13 proposals were mailed out. 2 were received, KRT and Vision Government Solutions. After we reviewed the criteria, we felt that the appropriate firm would be Vision Technology, given the criteria that we had. When we mailed out 13, as I said, and it was posted in the Lowell Sun. We're expecting to have hopefully a meeting within the next couple of weeks, if it's awarded, and plan probably a late spring start time.
I just have a quick question. So you mentioned Vision Government Solutions bid $299,000, but then you say, I recommend awarding the contract to Vision Technology.
Right. Vision Technology was at $299, KRT at $295. Vision Government Solutions, which is, they just kind of changed their name fairly recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was just
Okay,
wondering.
yep.
But it's the same company?
It's the same firm.
Okay.
So what they change it to? Is it Vision?
Change it to Vision
Vision Government Solutions is their current name, just a few months ago. Sorry about that.
Thank you for
You
clarifying.
had a 50-50 chance of getting that right. Okay.
And this is descriptive property data collection for fiscal year?
It's to be completed for the fiscal 17 reval. It's probably going to take, depending on the kind of personnel they assign to the project, probably a year or so. Maybe a little less.
Okay, just wondering how to word the motion.
Right.
Any other questions for Frank?
No.
No. Okay.
Make a motion to award the bid for descriptive property data collection, residential, commercial, and industrial for fiscal year 17 revaluation to Vision Government Solutions in the amount of $299,000.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taking a break. All right. Okay. Next up on the agenda is Town Manager Report for the fiscal 16 budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you recall, at our last meeting, we had a budget discussion, and we talked about the fact that we were sort of nearing the final pieces. We were waiting for the Neshoba Tech Board to vote its assessments the following evening on the 10th, and we were just incorporating everything. Since that time, and I'd sent out to you on the following day, the Wednesday, the proposed budget, my proposed budget for fiscal year 2016. I then presented it to the Finance Committee the following evening, which would be a week and a half ago on Thursday. At this point, the Finance Committee is holding budget hearings on the proposed budget. After the town election, when this board meets on its April 13th meeting, you'll be asked to take recommendations on the budget as well as all the remaining articles on the 22-article warrant for the town meeting. I've given a detailed presentation and sent it out to you, and I'll just touch upon a few points in the essence of brevity and efficiency for tonight. But in essence, because, again, the board won't be voting on the budget this evening, and again, we are sort of in a little atypical year because of the fact that with the new governor, everything was delayed and everything is sort of in a truncated schedule. But in essence, the budget is that I'm recommending is $119 million. It's 2.6% above the current year. As I discussed at the last meeting, the budget includes a transfer of $500,000 from the stabilization fund to meet the operations for the year. I've recommended a funding level for $52.4 million to the Chelmsford Public Schools. I've recommended the assessment requested and voted by the Neshoba Technical School District of $249,000. Evidence has shown us is that the district's voted budget tends to be approved by all of the member communities, although this year there were some concerns raised by a couple of the communities who had large assessment increases, namely Shirley and Pepperell. And interestingly enough, the first community that goes forward is Westford. They'll be voting soon on their town meeting, and then the night of our town meeting, the 27th of April, it's at the same time, the town of Groton and the town of Shirley will be holding its town meeting session. I have not been notified at this date at which meetings, which officials from Neshoba Tech will be attending what meetings, but I expect that given that they attended our meeting last year, there may be a possibility that the superintendent may not be in attendance, but I imagine we'll get more information as we get closer to that event. Also, we've incorporated the increases in the health insurance and retirement assessment, which is $1.3 million in our budget, and we incorporate because we have to, and again, it's an exercise under Proposition 2.5. Our excluded debt decreases by $500,000. In essence, thus far, the process is moving rather quickly through the Finance Committee, and I think the reason for that is the fact that it's a level service budget. You're not seeing any changes in staffing, any radical departures in funding levels. It's almost as if we just flip the calendar into the new fiscal year and continue the way we are, given the financial constraints that the town is under. We do have, once again, I've incorporated the recommendations from the Capital Planning Committee, which concluded its work back in December of a $3 million capital budget. I have included the plan for the $1 million towards OPEB. Again, budget priorities have never changed since I've been here. We prioritize, and I believe this budget shows a prioritization towards education as the first priority in the community. I think Chelmsford has always been noted for the quality of its schools, and I believe I've achieved that to the best I can within the constraints in terms of funding for education. Public safety, obviously another priority. Maintaining our capital infrastructure with the 26 buildings that we own in the community. And in terms of the line item increases, as I mentioned earlier, it's roughly a 2.66% increase. The Chelmsford Public Schools gets larger than that average of over 3%. Neshoba Tech goes up by 9.7% to meet that funding level of $249,000. The other area of notable increase is facilities. We increased the facilities budget by over 8.8%, and a lot of that does support the schools. And again, it sort of shows the commitment towards our infrastructure as well as towards education. And then the community services, as was noted by Darlene, and we've noted to the Finance Committee, that's really driven by the increase in veterans benefits. We had to increase that budget by $95,000, and that we will receive 75% reimbursement on that, which you'll see. But in essence, that reimbursement doesn't come until a year later, so we sort of have to carry that cost into the new year, and then we don't get the reimbursement for a year later. And then, as we noted, we do have an increase in state assessments, which results, as we said earlier, of our net school aid when we talked at the last meeting of only increasing by $28,000. For the essence of major expenditures, we also point out that what we in the expenditures, we also didn't fund a few items. The number that I've recommended for the schools at $52.4 million is over $600,000 less than what the school department has requested for what they called their level service plus enhancements budget. Last Tuesday evening, the superintendent circulated the administration's list of $618,000 in reductions that would meet the level service budget. The school committee has not taken a position on those recommended cuts, and in fact, they're having a continued discussion tomorrow evening on the budget, and we'll have a budget hearing, and then the school committee will vote in advance of town meeting its recommendations on the budget. But I also pointed out in the budget and listed, and again, didn't go into over detail, but we also pointed out, and it has been presented at the Finance Committee thus far, and will continue to take place, is that there are also sort of budget enhancements that are reasonable that were not included in the budget for other departments. And Chief Spinney, for example, he detailed to the Finance Committee last Thursday evening that, he would, if he had additional funding, he would put $30,000 towards putting a lieutenant on for the overnight shift to have a command staff officer there. Chief Curran has made a request that he would like additional staffing in the center station to meet the safety needs of the community. And I think we've seen this winter the challenges for our highway department in terms of either doing snow removal or fixing potholes or clearing snow from sidewalks and so forth, that there could be a need for a legitimate case made for additional help there. And then we've also discussed, and Deb Sirianni, our Council on Aging Director, discussed with the Finance Committee briefly last week, that there are needs for senior citizen transportation, which she estimates to be about $40,000. That's not included in the budget. So again, we've maintained strict adherence to level service, and again, we just can't meet what are reasonable requests. And in this time, our budget is certain because all of our contracts are going into the third and final year of funding. We still are unsettled with our police unions, and that those will be going to the state next month on that. And at some point this year, we anticipate that will be resolved. The issue of the funding sources for the budget, it's largely driven by the property tax because when you're only getting $28,000 more net from the state, and you've got these obligations for pension, assessment, contract settlements, and so forth, that total, in the millions, there isn't a lot else to turn to. As going back to the state issue, as we discussed last week, we only received the minimum $20 per student, which came up to just over $100,000. As I mentioned earlier, our net increase was $28,000 because we were hit with assessments for charter school tuition and school choice assessments as well. Again, I presented in the data and I'm not going to go through it in detail, but we've shown how these trends go over 5 and 10 years. We also see a clear trend that if that we are certainly meeting and exceeding the state's net school spending requirements for the schools by well over 20% at this point with this recommended budget. And so again, it almost doesn't become part of the discussion in Chelmsford. We do see with the data that I presented from the state's website, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, it now is costing us in the most recent year that we finished back in fiscal year 14, we're spending over $12,400 to educate a student in the Chelmsford Public Schools. That's a big increase. That's a big increase. It's over 21% increase in 5 years in education costs. When we look at that per pupil expenditure comparison with our similar communities, it's not an out-of-line increase. Tewksbury spends more than Chelmsford. We spend roughly the same as Westford. We're at $12,437. Westford is $12,526. Billerica spends $14,385 per student. So again, we measure ourselves by others because that's how we can compare ourselves. We also, as we noted, special education is almost a quarter of the school's budget. Over $13.5 million goes towards special education. And again, those numbers in terms of percentages and costs, aren't out of line. They are higher than our neighboring communities in terms of percentage, but are in line with our similar communities such as Tewksbury and so forth. The issue of student-teacher ratio, again, using the data from the DESE website, which again is submitted by the communities, our teacher ratio, first of all, big thing is our enrollment has fallen. Our enrollment has fallen by 8%, over 8% in the last 5 years. We have 466 foundation enrollment students than we did back 5 years ago, and therefore our student-teacher ratio has increased in a positive manner, meaning that there are fewer students for a teacher in a classroom. If you go back, 5 years ago, we were 15.8 student-teacher ratio. Now it's down to 14.8. And even in the reductions that the superintendent presented to the school committee last Tuesday evening, he did not propose any reductions in the classroom at the high school. The only reductions they saw in teaching staff on his proposal was to eliminate 2 teachers at the McCarthy School because of enrollment issues.
And a part-time kindergarten teacher.
And a part-time
at
kindergarten
Harrington.
because of the enrollment that was an anomaly at the Harrington School. The other thing that I foresee, and I imagine the school committee may be discussing this tomorrow evening because they are scheduled to discuss school choice, is I do foresee that the enrollment at the high school will again fall this year. When you look at the fact that the senior class is graduating has a 413 student foundation enrollment, the current 8th grade class enrolled in Chelmsford is 391. But that 391, as we know from experience, doesn't all go to the high school. And so therefore, I estimate we'll probably lose about 60 kids between what's going out at the senior class and what may come in at the freshman class. And so again, I imagine there'll be some discussion on two fronts by the school committee. One is looking at additional choice slots, which bring in revenue with the students, and second may have to do with faculty staffing in terms of whether they may wish to not fill some retiring teacher positions and so forth. Again, the data on student-teacher enrollments, we're certainly not out of line. We're certainly not Wellesley, that the DESE puts us on that list with of 13.2. But in essence, we're around the size of what Natick would have, which is around 14.7. Again, going back to the Neshoba assessment, we're up $249,236 and 9.7%. Our enrollment this year at Neshoba went up by 12 students from 173 to 185. That's obviously the largest enrollment Chelmsford has had at Neshoba Tech. Our assessment is now $2.8 million. Over the last 5 years, our enrollment has increased by 46 students, or a third. That's a third of increase in enrollment, and our assessment has increased by almost $1 million, $964,000 in the last 5 years, or over 52% increase in our assessment at Neshoba Tech. And so the other thing to note is that our per pupil expenditure in Neshoba Tech is now, again, going back to 14, which is the year they just finished back in the last school year, their per pupil expenditure cost, and this was verified with their own data when they had the budget breakfast, is $16,152. And that's a $1,000 increase, or 6.6% in 5 years. Why the Neshoba per pupil expenditure is greater than the Chelmsford is, in essence, your apples and oranges. Chelmsford's average gets reduced by the fact that we have elementary and second intermediate school grades. Generally, your cost of education at the initial grade levels is less than that at a high school. We don't have separate data for Chelmsford High School's enrollment. Again, Neshoba, is a different type of school, but what Neshoba presented at their budget breakfast, as we've seen, is out of the 29 vocational school districts in the Commonwealth, their cost was the lowest of the 29, even though it is $16,000. So, in essence, it's a lot to educate a student in today's, not to mention college costs, but certainly even at the high school level on an annual basis.
And they operate, excuse me, Paul,
yeah.
they operate as like a municipality.
Yep.
Because, all the medical costs and
that's all built in as well
that's
to
all
the
built
state.
into
Right,
that
when
per
they do the end of
pupil
year,
cost.
even for the Chelmsford schools, that's all rolled in.
It is rolled in.
The town accountant submits data that
Okay.
then gets certified, so it does become apples to apples. So the cost that we pay for health insurance for the schools goes into our per pupil costs.
Oh, okay.
And that is
But,
incorporated. Even facilities, care, and all that stuff in debt all gets incorporated.
The
into
apples and oranges is really the lower
Right.
students, the
Right,
early school.
Right, so if you were comparing a district that just did K through 8 education,
Right.
your per pupil cost would certainly be much less than running a high school.
Right,
The other thing that is in the presentation is our call volume for public safety is increasing. The police in the past calendar year answered over 35,800 calls. That's an increase. If you go back to the start of the decade of over 2,800 calls, and again, we're maintaining our staffing levels. Same thing with fire department. Their calls for the fire service in terms of they're responding to are now over 7,500 per year. And again, if you went back, to 2010, their reporting records showed they were responding to 5,600 calls per year. So in essence, when we look at, the demands upon public safety, they're there. Again, a lot of it is medical. We understand that. A lot of it, for example, for fire, they do respond to the highways as well as other incidents across the community. Donnelly noted earlier, for snow removal, we're over budget by, over $500,000 at this point. That sort of marks sort of the fourth time in 5 years that we'll be at or over budget, and we do a 5-year average. Interestingly, we're about 50% over on our snow and ice budget. I was at a Mass Municipal meeting last week. They did a statewide survey. The typical community across the Commonwealth is over budget by 100%. So part of it is realistic budgeting, but also just shows you and in fact, it just shows you the impact of this winter, which unfortunately has had record snowfalls and also record cold for, at this point, February and March, which is not helping with utilities as well. Again, we point out our fixed costs, our retirement assessment, as we noted earlier at previous meetings, is up by over 9%, a $600,000 increase in our retirement assessment. We're now being assessed over $7.1 million is our retirement assessment for the upcoming year. Sadly, of that $7.1 million, $5.8 million of that is payment on the unfunded liability, unfunded pension liability. And so it just goes to show you how the burden of funding a true cost, which in this case will go through 2035, impacts the community. And in fact, the unfunded pension liability increased during the past 2 years assessment cycle by 800. We have an $800,000 increase towards the unfunded pension liability in our current year. Part of the reason for the increase is the fact that they've reduced their model in terms of expected returns from the market. And that's been done at the state level as well. And again, those aren't items that we control. When you go from an 8% expected return to 7 3/4, that impacts on a compounded basis. You can imagine your assessment. So we are meeting the assessment from the county retirement, which is based on our own experience. In terms of OPEB, our OPEB liability is going to be reassessed this year. Once again, like the county, it's done on an every 2-year basis. So that work is underway right now. But based on the information we had for how we closed out 14, the last year, we believed our OPEB obligation increased by over $3 million during this past year, and therefore our liability is now close to $90 million. And again, we'll see the new calculation probably in the next couple of months when that work is completed. The funding level of the $1 million in the budget, it's our estimate, it funds only about 43% of what would be a $2.3 million appropriation if we were trying to eliminate this in a 30-year period by 2045. So what's happening in essence is we're continuing to increase our liability going forward to the point where it just grows. And then what you're likely to see in the future is somehow that will come to reckon with similar as we're dealing with when, as I mentioned earlier, about the pension liability. And we'll wait and see. I've been told to expect that we do not anticipate that the legislature will deal with OPEB reform this session. Two reasons. One is you have a new administration, which I think wants to conduct its own insight into the issue, and therefore will not be just simply picking up the report that was done by the commission over a year ago. And secondly, I think the challenges of the state over the next few months clear to be budgetary as well as MBTA, and so it just doesn't appear that OPEB is going to be addressed before they recess at the end of July for the formal session. As we noted earlier, again, a couple other items, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of veterans benefits, I've increased that budget by $95,000 to $275,000. As Darlene noted earlier, these are based on real claims with real people, and part of that was driven by the fact that we have more veterans receiving benefits in the community, obviously, and part of that's driven by the fact that we have more veterans housing in the community. The veterans who are over on Manahan Street, Regina is servicing them, and again, with the emphasis is providing a reasonable level of benefits that they're entitled to, as well as the state's focus on providing benefits to deserving veterans. Good news is on the debt service is the fact that while a non-excluded debt service remains relatively stable for the current year, and again, as reported by Standard & Poor's, is not excessive in that the amortization should be paid off by almost 78% in the next 10 years, assuming there's no major projects added, which at this point in time there aren't any. But our excluded debt will decrease by over $500,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. So in essence, in a period from 5 fiscal years, our excluded debt drops from $6.4 million down to $4.5 million. That's pretty significant in terms of the impact of excluded debt on the levy. And again, that money cannot be appropriated anywhere else because it was excluded just for that purpose, for that debt. Again, our going back to full-time employees, we're roughly still at 240 employees for the general government for the year ahead. Again, our change in funding sources, again, is largely driven by property tax. The 2.5%, which is a mathematical calculation, is $2,050,000. We estimate a reasonable to aggressive estimate of new growth based on permit activity is 1.35 million. And then again, gross state aid is 325,000. We're pushing local receipts up by over 475,000, and that's largely driven by motor vehicle excise. We've seen some growth there. In terms of revenue comparisons, again, we're now funding more than 3/4 of our budget through the property tax. State aid is falling in terms of a portion of our budget to now being roughly 13.5% of our budget. We are certainly receiving more Chapter 70 funding. However, we're receiving less lottery or unrestricted general aid, and certainly if you were to use it in terms of real dollars, we're certainly well past the peak of our state aid funding going back over the past decade. And if you go back 10 years, in terms of non-inflation adjusted dollars, we're almost $1 million less, or 17.5% less in general government aid from the state. Obviously, in terms of where does the property tax and everything go, if you look at just the percentage of the dollars that go to the public schools in Chelmsford, it's roughly 44%, and the Neshoba tax another 2%. If you look at our funding for education as a community, when you put in benefits and other aspects, you're roughly spending close to 60% of the town's budget goes towards education. The next largest area, unfortunately, is benefits and insurance, where over 16% of our budget goes there. And then it goes to debt service, over 12.5% of our budget goes there. And then public safety at over 10% of the budget. In terms of the average single-family tax bill, which is the one statewide metric that we have, there's no doubt the taxes have increased by over $1,000 in the last 5 years, or a 20% increase. However, our ranking in terms of where we rank, in terms of number one being the highest average single-family bill in the state, to 351 being the lowest, we maintain a position of around just under 70. We're at 69 this year. If you went back a decade, we were up at 63. So I guess in relative terms, we're less. So I think what that illustrates is the fact that taxes are up in Chelmsford, but they're up everywhere. We really, again, we don't foresee any available excess levy capacity in the community based upon this budget. The issue of state aid, as I mentioned earlier, the two big items are Chapter 70 and general government aid. Again, only $20 per student in the general government aid. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the big increase in local receipts is the fact that our motor vehicle excise bill, the average bill for motor vehicle excise in the community is $118.64 for this year. We're seeing we have over 31,000 motor vehicle excise tax bills. We've seen that increase in the last couple of years, and at this point we don't see a reason to see that fall because the data that I see, we're still seeing the average age of a vehicle is still considerable out there. I won't review the capital plan. That's been done earlier. We're over $3 million in the proposed capital plan funding. And so, in essence, we're where we're at in terms of, what we can do as a community. As I think I described at the last meeting, we're at the wall. In essence, when the year comes in and goes out, we'll, in essence, be spending what we're taking in. But in essence, I think it's the level of services that have been traditional in the community, and I think it's the level of services that the majority of the residents come to expect in the community. And so that's sort of it in the nutshell at this point. So if there's any questions?
Paul, the $3 million a year, what does it actually cost us?
In terms of what? I don't understand the question. $3 million a
In
year,
terms
what
of,
does that cost us?
Every
Cost
year.
us $3 million. What's
Every,
the question?
every year we appropriate $3 million for capital, right?
Yeah.
How much does that go on the debt each year? In other
Well,
words,
$3 million that goes on the debt every year.
No, but the
And it's-
payment, actually the payment.
The payment,
I think I've
you've got that there.
have that on here, but
In essence, it's pretty much a steady state now. We're pretty much at the point where the debt for the 3 million in terms of capital it's close to the point where we're taking off 3 million and we're adding 3 million. What happens is if you're borrowing that over a 10-year period, in other words, if you would basically say,
what
let's
you're
not
asking to
fund it.
borrow?
Yeah, that's really what I'm.
If you're not funding it for a year, then in essence, you would probably save a tenth of that, or $300,000 plus some interest.
So that's
Let's say
about what it
350.
costs.
350, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say roughly 350.
So if you
Yeah.
took half of it off, then you're not saving a lot of money.
No, you'd be saving 175,000. The difficulty with that is you get into what I guess the colloquial term would be the MBTA game. You know, you can sort of pretend the problems aren't there, and then all of a sudden you're just swamped.
Yeah.
With the big
MBTA
problem.
had a lot different problems.
No, but that would be the problem, is if you ignore your capital, and I think that's part of their problem, is if they ignored their capital investment, they get to the point where how do they dig out of that hole? And I think that, again, it was prior to my time, but I think the criticism that was in the debate for the school project a decade ago was the fact of how was Chelmsford caring for its infrastructure. And I think there's been an emphasis on that in the last decade in terms of, putting an investment so that the school buildings last. And as I've noted on earlier occasions, we're one of the few communities in this region that aren't contemplating a new school project.
I agree.
And our newest high school is 74. So you're looking at a 40-year-old building. And the concern, I think, in the long term is going to be is at some point where we will be like Billerica, in the point where if all your school buildings were built between 59 and 74, and other than the renovations of Center School back in the 90s, at some point you're going to be at a situation where you're going to be, which is what happened to Billerica, you're going to be looking at multiple schools in a rather short period, where they built an elementary school and now they're looking at a high school.
Right,
And at some point, it probably won't be during any of our tenure, but at some point the community will have to deal with that just because of the fact that
They hadn't done anything.
Right, I meant tenure at this table.
But
not in life.
Not in life. I meant tenure at this table.
what I'm thinking about here is I believe next year, 17, is when the forum's going to come up.
Yes.
And that's going to be possibly a big number.
It will be a number. Fortunately, our excluded debt falls that year.
Right.
And therefore, we may be able to, I don't anticipate we would go to the ballot to purchase the forum.
No.
I think we would try to absorb it into our debt structure, because that's the year we finished paying off the library and the center school, and that might be the year to take on the forum. The good thing about the forum legislation is what it calls for is it expires in 2018, and it enables the town to purchase the facility at the market value, less the capital improvements the town has made during the time of its investment. And the capital improvements we've made are not insignificant. We've done the roof,
Right.
the
It's in the millions,
it's in,
probably.
yes. I don't know if it's in the millions, but it's close to $1 million. And so it's when you look at the roof, and we did the boards and the scoreboard and the parking lot and so forth, that will reduce our cost.
And that would be about $2 million.
Yeah, we'd figure out what I think quite frankly, I think the biggest variable or the biggest asset over there is the land.
Right.
And when you look at the land and the forum itself, I think the bigger value of the whole site is probably the land.
Yeah.
Not to say that an ice rink isn't a big, but that's a prime piece of real estate.
But it's something we have to think about.
Something we have to think about as a
And,
community.
that's why I'm asking how much how much that payment is, because
I
when
think
we
that's-
get to that point, we're going to have to either, do something or let it go.
Right.
And I'm sure
It's not that far. It's only a couple years
school
off.
doesn't want to get rid of it.
Well, it's
No,
also
but the
the-
schools also, they've got their own list
Yeah.
of these portables that
Right.
they would
Yeah.
like to see replaced. They'd like to see
science labs at the middle
science
school.
labs, which
Right.
was on the original
Right.
override,
Yep.
and they've
So
got
is
their
that going
own
to be a
desires.
school? That's going to be a school issue.
Right. But I think
Not a
you'll see
town
the
issue.
building committee will will form with the school officials to address a project, much like we've done the fire station and
Right.
the other ones. That there'll be a committee formed, because the process of getting onto that school list is about 3 to 4 years before you get,
But I think it'd be a good discussion as a tri-board,
Yeah.
to try to prioritize.
Because one of the things they asked at the candidates night the other night was, do you see any big projects coming? And
Yeah.
nobody stated that that was coming, and that is coming.
Yep, the forum is coming.
About $2 million,
That's all it's going to cost us?
roughly.
George
Okay,
has got it worked out.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
have-
that's a discussion for
Yeah, we
another
don't have,
time.
yeah, I don't have an
And
appraisal for
anybody
the
have any
forum.
questions about the fiscal 16 proposed budget?
I had some other questions, but I got to go back and find them. Go ahead. You got any questions?
Well, as Paul said, we will have another chance at this one when it's time to vote approval or recommendations.
I just had one quick question. Paul, it looked like the school administration budget was staying almost completely flat this year. I was wondering how that's possible with different step increases and things like that, or was I maybe just looking at a different portion of the increase?
Oh, you mean municipal administration?
Yeah, municipal
Yeah.
administration.
Oh, right here.
The minister, you said school administration.
Oh, God, sorry.
I was looking for that
I was looking for that
slide.
line either. It is possible, and largely it's due to the fact that, two things. And I should have prefaced it, when we have an extraordinary expense in a budget for a one-time thing, I don't include that in the base for the budget going for the year ahead. So in other words, if we needed $20,000 to replace a server in the technology budget, and that was an extraordinary item, that doesn't stay in the base for the next year. So when you have that extraordinary increase, it doesn't go in. The other thing, though, is we've had some staff exchanges in the building with some long-term employees retiring, and then the newer people come in at a lesser salary, and then that's how you sort of offset it. The schools sort of call it salary exchange, and then again, we budget on real people that are known, and so that's how we were able to do that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
And also, you had a few other items. For example, like the reval, you voted earlier the contract this evening for the reval. Then that's a townwide reval, if you recall from town meeting. Well, because of that, the number that you would normally have in the annual reval for the assessor's office, we reduced that because otherwise it'd be double counting.
Right.
Because you'd say, well, wait a minute, you're not going to fund the work you normally do in a year and then fund it in the contract. So, we don't give any free passes, into the budget. And I think the real reason for that is because we can't afford to. So when we really go through it, we go through it line by line, sit with the department heads, and see what it is they really need to operate. And you also see that with elections. For example, last year, and that's why it sort of becomes a little bit misleading, Matt. For example, if you got an election year where you've got a state primary, go back to 2014, you had a state primary, a state election, and then a town election. You go to 2015, all you have is a town election, well, then your election costs are going to go down. And so for 16, we only have the presidential primary that falls within the fiscal year as well as the town election. So that's sort of an in-between election funding cycle. The following year, you'll have a jump because when you do fiscal 17, which again starts July 1 of 16, you got to fund the state primary in September, the state election in November, and then the town election in April. That's the large year, the 3 years. This year coming up, all we fund is the presidential primary in March and the town election in April. So that's how things can get distorted in the budget in terms of increases. So that's why you see those type of things happen.
Now, just one more, if I could. Chapter 70, that's
Yeah.
coming from the state this year.
$20 per student.
Okay.
The minimum.
There's also the other, what's it called, the other one, the lottery, the old lottery?
Unrestricted general government aid.
Unrestricted general fund.
Right.
Do we, as the town side, take all of that, or do you?
No, it all goes into one revenue pot. We don't.
Oh, okay.
We don't do that. In essence, I've seen some communities have a formula where they'll say whatever your gross revenue is, the schools get 60%, the town gets 40%.
Yeah.
That's never been the custom and tradition in Chelmsford, so we don't sort of look at that.
So some of that money will go to the school?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else, Janet?
The only other final budgetary thing I have in my report, and I'll let you move on, is since the last meeting, and I sent this out to you and people probably read about it, is we did receive from the state, the Mass DOT, in fact, the contract language came in today, what they're calling the Winter Recovery Assistance Program, or the pothole money. The town is receiving $176,080 in pothole money. The caveat on this is that it has to be work has to be completed by June 30th of this year, and then you got to submit your reimbursements by July 31st. And the money can be used for patching of potholes, cracking, and other surface defects, including paving projects, repair and replacement of signage, guardrails, storm grates, or road striping or painting. In essence, DPW is going to do similar to what they did last year, if it will ever warm up out there, is they're going to do what we saw last year, and it was pretty effective, is the sections of roads,
Yeah,
where
that
instead
was
of just
good.
going out there throwing patch in the road and, moving on, they're going to go out and do these patchworks of roads, which sort of a little catches your eye a little bit, but then within a few months it sort of blends in with the road conditions. So that's what we'll be doing, and as you can imagine, there's an extensive list of work, so we won't have a problem spending the $176,000. The other thing that we're awaiting, and we think it'll probably happen perhaps by your next meeting, is the governor has submitted a $200 million Chapter 90 bond bill for road improvements. The Senate committee has already approved it. It's now in the House side. The goal, again, in order to meet this construction season, would be to have that approved by mid-April, so that towns can bid and then construct those projects on road repair work in the months ahead. So I think what's going to happen, unfortunately, is we're getting a late start to the road season. And we're getting a lot of damage with the freezing and melting. But I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a big demand. And I'm a little concerned about what that's going to do for pricing. And I think you're seeing this on homeowner basis as well. If you wanted to get your leaky roof repaired or your drywall done, the list is long for contractors. And I think that's the only caution I have, is I think you're going to see that it's going to be a seller's market for paving companies because of the fact of the demand and the damage that's out there. So we'll do the best we can.
Will this be in addition to the
Yes.
Chapter
Yeah.
90?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we'll wait and see what's out there. So thank you,
Okay.
members, for your attention this
Okay.
evening.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, next on our agenda is the letter that we had talked about sending to the Department of Revenue. I drafted the one that's in the packet and wanted to know if anybody had any comments, suggestions, recommendations, edits.
No.
If
My
not,
big concern was the date, so.
The date?
Start date.
oh,
of the programs.
thought you meant the date on the letter.
That's correct.
Okay.
We need a motion? to
Yeah, why
approve
don't we?
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the letter from Pat Wojcicki, Chairman, Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, to Rick Kingsley, Bureau Chief, for a feasibility study of the potential consolidation of financial operations of the Chelmsford Public Schools and the Municipal Finance Department, dated March 23rd, 2015, and as presented.
Seconded?
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Okay, and we have a couple appointments. Paul?
Yes, thank you. 2 items I'm seeking your confirmation for appointments this evening. It would be for Simon Dukes of Wigan Street to the Energy Conservation Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then, once again, I'm pleased to, again, seek your confirmation, once again, for the appointment of Eric Merrill as Inspector of Animals through the state designated period of April 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, on to Selectmen liaison reports and referrals. Janet, let's start with you.
Oh, okay. Just a couple of quick liaison reports. As the town manager mentioned earlier, the school committee is making their budget presentation to the finance committee this Thursday at 7 p.m. It's going to be in room number 205. The Board of Health is also going to be presenting their budget proposal as well. The Board of Health will be meeting on April 6th at 6:15 p.m. One of the agenda items is they're going to be continuing their discussion on potentially raising tobacco sales to age 21. So I encourage folks, you can still buy. But I encourage folks, if they have an opinion about that, contact the Board of Health and certainly come to the meeting. Also, just a quick update on the 101 Mill Road Committee. They had a meeting last Wednesday. They're still developing their schedule and identifying experts that they want to speak. They're in fact-gathering mode right now and trying to get as many folks as possible to come and talk about the property, any information that they can share. And thank you to Paul. He's checking out some information they asked for today. They're going to get some information from Mac, who previously owned it, to get some idea of costs for running the place. And on the next agenda, their next meeting is going to be April 1st at 7 p.m. And on the next agenda, they're going to be talking about potentially creating a website to help share all this information that they're gathering. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. George, how about you?
No, I don't have much. I just hope that people get out and vote on April 7th. That's all. It's a privilege, and everybody should take advantage of it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Matt?
All right. I'd also like to echo those comments and invite everyone out to vote. It's very important. I hope we do have a large turnout this year. And I did just want to plug again, I know I already mentioned it, but this regional transportation public input session, we do have a lot of comments received over the years here on the board about traffic and public safety and things like that and transportation, and these public input sessions usually don't have that many people who attend. So I really would just like to encourage anyone who has ideas about transportation in the region to attend, specifically the one in Chelmsford at the Senior Center on Monday, March 30th. It's from 12:30 to 2. Other than that, please feel free to join me at my office hours at Panera on Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m. That's all.
Okay. Well, you complained I did you first all the time.
I know.
So.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't know if Paul's waiting for my one-year anniversary, or, but I'm still waiting for the information on the lights at the Santana Bank. Okay, I haven't got any answers, but, you know.
Paul, please.
It's not forgotten, Bob.
I'm, perfectly willing to go over there and rattle some people, but,
With a bulb.
and the other thing was,
The snow would finally melt. They can.
yeah, okay, well, now we got a
They
problem.
can't find the lights.
But they, like I said before, they have two lights. They're in their area. Maybe we should ask them for an easement or something so we can service them. I don't know. But
I do.
it was the planning board that demanded that they put those there, me particularly. And the other thing is the signals going west.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about the timing? Do we have access to changing the lights?
We have the ability to do it. When I speak to Gary Persichetti at Public Works and so forth, he doesn't know of any better timing mechanism, in terms of what to do there.
Yeah, well, he needs to make the line, he needs to make the light going towards Westford longer.
But it becomes the problem is it becomes a domino effect
Right.
of what you do there, what else it does in the center intersection.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's kind of like the Drum Hill intersection. You can't treat one signal in isolation.
Right, but
It sort of has the
the
impacts.
light that comes before it is
Right.
allowing people to get through.
Right.
And then it's all stacking up,
Right.
so if Gary wants to speak to me about it,
Okay, okay.
I won't be going that way anymore, but, but I still think it should be fixed. And that's it, thanks.
Okay.
And everybody get out and vote, it's important. 20% of the voter is not a good turnout, so we need to get people out in the 40% if we can. Thanks.
Okay. I have a few things. Don't forget the volunteer fair this this Saturday, March 28th at the Senior Center from 10 to 12. Good opportunity if you're interested in volunteering for anything that interests you. There'll be over 30 different organizations and groups that'll be there trying to recruit volunteers, so good chance to see what your options are on that. Also on Saturday, March 28th is a book drop-off for the library, which will be held at the gym at the town offices, not at the Dutton House. So bring your books to the town offices at the gym, and they're going to have a book sale there, a spring book sale on Saturday, April 11th, and Sunday, April 12th. Again, remember it's at the gym behind town offices, and remember the new entry. You don't come off Chelmsford Street anymore. That won't work. You have to come up Wilson Street and then come in the driveway there. Want to congratulate all the folks that were inducted into the Chelmsford High School Alumni Hall of Fame last Saturday. It was a good event. A lot of very impressive folks from Chelmsford High School that were there, so that was good. And that's all I have, but I know we do have one item that we did not go back to on our agenda, the roadside vendor license for Mr. Turner. I don't know how everybody feels about that. He did not, no, that's not Mr. Turner.
He's obtained that license every year.
He has
It hasn't
obtained
been
that
any
license
issues.
every year.
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't have any problem.
Okay, we okay with that? That's fine with me, so we'll.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the application for roadside vendor to Edgar A. Turner Jr. to be exercised on the premises at 8 Parkerville Road.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I just have one other thing. Since this is the last Board of Selectmen meeting before the election, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Pat for serving as our chair this year.
Well, thank you.
I think you've done a wonderful job. You've kept us in line.
Yes.
Kept the meeting going. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I see we have no press here, so we can skip right past press questions, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.